Ukraine's top army commanders can't stay away from the war anymore as battlefield pressure intensifies? Amid a growing shortage of troops, are Ukraine's top commanders being pushed toward the front line to reinforce struggling forces? Zelensky is turning to a commander who fought in the battle for Avdiivka to reinforce Ukraine's positions in Donetsk. Zelensky is also sending a controversial Azov brigade figure to bolster Ukrainian forces in one of the war's most heavily contested regions. Ukraine's military shakeup comes as Kyiv faces fresh scrutiny after Kyiv fired missiles at its own people in Donetsk. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ordered new military units to reinforce positions in Donetsk on August 26, as fighting continues to intensify across the region. Zelensky said top commanders Andrii Biletskyi and Prokopenko would lead the newly deployed units, placing experienced battlefield leaders in key positions.
Our positions in the Donetsk region will be strengthened thanks to two revamped groupings. Their commanders will be Hero of Ukraine Denis Prokopenko and Hero of Ukraine Andrii Biletskyi. Today, I thanked our assault forces for their results. This is one of the operations that has already become historic, proving that Ukrainians can achieve their goals and inflict substantial losses on the Russians. The Oleksandrivsky counter-offensive. Every step that pushes Russian forces back brings greater security for our people and greater diplomatic opportunities for Ukraine.
Biletskyi and Prokopenko have both commanded Ukrainian forces through some of the war's most intense and consequential battles. Prokopenko fought during the defense of Mariupol before being captured by Russian forces, remaining in captivity until September 2022. Prokopenko joined the controversial volunteer-based Azov battalion in 2014, according to the Kyiv Independent, and later rose through its command structure. Biletskyi fought during the defense of Kyiv before going on to take part in Ukrainian military operations across Kherson and Donetsk. Biletskyi was also reportedly involved in the battle for Avdiivka, the strategic Donetsk city that Russian forces eventually captured in February 2024. Prokopenko reportedly fought in the defense of Mariupol, which Russian forces captured during the first year of the war after months of intense fighting. Both commanders now lead large military formations deployed across heavily contested areas of Donetsk, placing their forces directly in the path of Russia's offensive. Recent explosions and missile strikes across Donetsk on August 26 have further underscored just how intense and dangerous the fighting remains in the region. Zelensky said Ukraine must strengthen its positions and improve the effectiveness of its forces as Kyiv prepares for continued battles across the Donetsk front. Volodymyr Zelensky said, and I quote, "A security meeting on the frontline situation and defensive operations in key sectors." The meeting was attended by Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine Mykhailo Drapetyi, Commander of the Airborne Forces Oleg Apostle, Commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces Robert Brovdy, Commander of the 3rd Army Corps Andrii Biletskyi, Commander of the 1st Corps of the National Guard of Ukraine Azov Denis Prokopenko, and Head of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration Ivan Fedorov. The main focus was on the actual state of affairs at the front, what is needed to increase the effectiveness of our warriors, and the situation in Zaporizhzhia. I instructed that the protection of the city and the region be strengthened, particularly those areas on which other cities and communities depend. We are also enhancing the effectiveness of the defense of the Donetsk region. Two groupings will be established, to be commanded by Andrii Biletskyi and Denis Prokopenko. Thank you to everyone working for Ukraine. We are doing everything to strengthen our positions." Unquote. Donetsk remains the focus of Moscow's main offensive effort, as Russian forces push toward Ukraine's so-called fortress belt. Ukraine allegedly launched a missile strike on the Russian-occupied city of Donetsk on August 26, with Moscow blaming Kiev for the attack. The strikes reportedly damaged residential buildings and civilian infrastructure across Donetsk, according to regional head Denis Pushilin. Footage emerging from Donetsk showed damage near the Druzhba Sports Center, including a building that reportedly partially collapsed after the strikes. Pushilin claimed that Anglo-French Storm Shadow and Scalp-EG missiles were used in the attacks across the city, escalating the focus on Western-supplied weapons. Denis Pushilin said, and I quote, "The strikes targeted several locations in the east of Donetsk, with most of the casualties reported near the Donetsk City Mall. The Western-supplied munitions used included the Anglo-French Storm Shadow Scalp-EG missiles. At least 8 civilians, including 2 minors, were injured in the strikes near the mall. while another man was wounded by the detonation of an unexploded ordnance piece at another location. 2 other civilians were wounded in the Ukrainian attacks elsewhere in the DPR. A total of 8 residential buildings, 11 civilian infrastructure sites, and multiple cars were damaged in the attacks across the city and beyond, unquote. Russian investigators have launched a probe into the strikes and begun collecting evidence from the affected sites to determine the scale and circumstances of the attack.
Officers from the Russian Investigative Committee are currently inspecting and documenting the aftermath of a large-scale armed attack on residential neighborhoods in the central districts of Donetsk. During the inspection, it was established that numerous attacks had caused damage and destruction to civilian infrastructure, apartment blocks, and cars located near the epicenter of the explosion. Fragments, believed to be from large-caliber ammunition of foreign manufacture, have been found at the scene. All fragments and shrapnel will be collected and sent for analysis to determine the specific type and caliber of the ammunition. Details regarding the damage and casualties are being clarified.
The allegations came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky named prominent commanders to reinforce the Donetsk region on August 26, signaling Kyiv's continued focus on the battlefield.
Our positions in the Donetsk region will be strengthened thanks to 2 revamped groupings. Their commanders will be Hero of Ukraine Denys Prokopenko and Hero of Ukraine Andrii Biletskyi. Today I thanked our assault forces for their results. This is one of the operations that has already become historic, proving that Ukrainians can achieve their goals and inflict substantial losses on the Russians. The Oleksandrivsky counteroffensive. Every step that pushes Russian forces back brings greater security for our people and greater diplomatic opportunities for Ukraine.
Earlier, a Ukrainian drone reportedly struck an intercity passenger bus in neighboring Luhansk, adding to growing concerns over attacks on civilian targets. Local Governor Leonid Paseknik said at least 9 civilians were killed in the strike, while another 5 people were reportedly injured in the attack. The incident came as Kyiv continues expanding its long-range strike campaign against Russian-held areas, bringing more distant targets into the crosshairs. The $10 million machines are struggling against cheap drones dominating the battlefield, changing how Kyiv can safely deploy its heavy armor. Ukraine began receiving Leopard and other Western tanks in 2023 after repeatedly begging European backers to provide the advanced battlefield equipment. German-made Leopard tanks are now hidden beneath camouflage nets deep behind the front line, kept away from the most dangerous combat zones. Kyiv mostly uses its tanks for training and maintenance, while others remain in reserve, waiting for orders to return to action. Other tanks were reportedly damaged while towing disabled vehicles away from the front line, exposing the dangers crews face even during recovery operations. Ukrainian crews say the armor can still operate effectively, but only under far more restrictive battlefield conditions than before. Tanks venture out during bad weather, when strong winds, rain, and poor visibility can reduce the number of drones operating overhead. Russia and Ukraine have reduced heavy armor assaults as drones increasingly dominate the battlefield and reshape frontline tactics. But Russian forces had already begun using anti-drone cages to protect their own tanks from attacks by increasingly prevalent unmanned systems. Ukraine also added protective cages and additional armor to its tanks, but questions remain over how relevant these adaptations are against modern drone threats. Instead, Ukraine is now retraining parts of its tank units to operate air and ground drones, reflecting a major shift in battlefield priorities. A Ukrainian commander said around half of his battalion has been retrained as drone operators, highlighting the scale of this transformation. Ukrainian commanders are now searching for ways to give their heavy armor a new lease on life as drones reshape modern warfare.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.